This program is brought to you by viewers like you and supporters of the KLRN News and Public Affairs Fund, bringing you thoughtful and ongoing coverage on local, state, and national issues that matter.
What areas would you specialize in?
Well, like my opponent, I'm very much concerned with education. I've taught elementary school as a special ed teacher. I've taught middle school, I've taught high school, and of course college and the university level. So, and I've done that for almost 30 years. So I'm very much concerned about the education issues, but also I'm very much concerned about local stuff as well. So I'll be looking at all the local issues that might come up, especially when you have to watch the last 20 to 17 days in the state legislature. Going to be very important that we have a real close watch on the.
What kind of local issues? What are you talking about?
Well, I think we have to look at the crime issues. I think we have to look at. We've had big problems with the cameras, body cameras that police officers are supposed to be getting. We've got like a 10% body cam rate of the San Antonio Police Department. Those are local issues that I think the state ought to be involved in, especially when we're looking for accountability, both in terms of citizen participation, but also in terms of law enforcement officials.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because nationally over the last couple of years and locally, we've had many occasions to be talking about the relationship between especially minority communities, black communities, and the police officers. What, as a legislator, what do you think you can do to address those issues? First of all, in San Antonio, do you see any relationship between San Antonio and Ferguson, for example?
Not as much. I do see some issues that we need to be concerned about. I was a member of the PERF committee that the city of San Antonio set up to look at the reforms that needed to take place in the police department, and there were many of them, and they included things like how long does a complaint stay on a police officer's record, and in the past it didn't stay there at all. Now you're looking at about a 3-year window in which that complaint has to stay, because if they have continued problems, then certainly someone needs to look at that. So we have some problems in the city, and I think we've seen that in various civil rights cases in terms of Marquise Jones, in terms of some of the other people who have been, in my opinion, treated very unfairly. So we have to have, I think, a balance. We need, I think, police protection, obviously. We need crime addressed, but we also need it done in a way that's commensurate and that's constitutional. We can't have anyone violating the Constitution. Someone once said to me, well, are you anti-cop? I said, no, I'm anti-criminal. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter who the criminal is, and that's the point. So I think we need to do a better job of accountability in terms of those civil rights issues. We've got to look at it both ways, in terms of police abuse, but also in terms of the crime that we have, the gang violence and so forth. In any police department, the national statistics show that at least 10% of every police department has rogue police officers. So we've tried over the many long period of years to try to create a civilian review board where civilians can have some input in the complaint process. That's not really happened. Mm-hmm. Most of us respect the police, there's no doubt about that, but also we have to be concerned about violations of the law on the part of law enforcement. We don't have a civilian review board, we don't have any of that. We don't have accountability in the police department. The chief can fire a police officer and he can be reinstated because they can go hire a big lawyer.
I want to talk a little bit about style. Does this tell us something about how you would act in the legislature as opposed to how Barbara would?
Well, the way I act in any particular situation is commensurate with the type of opposition that I face. And if that opposition is commensurate with a level that needs to be taken, then that's the level I'm going to take. You don't always have to do that. I mean, when I was on the city council, there were some days when the mayor and I got along quite well, and that was those days, Howard Peak, and there were other days when we didn't. So I think when someone does something that's not commensurate with human rights, civil rights, not commensurate with common sense, then everyone should have a duty to speak up. I speak up when things are wrong. I speak out against injustice, and will continue to do so. The mayor and I have shaken hands. During any political issue, things come to a head sometimes, and it was quite obvious to me that there was support going to the mayor from certain sides of town that were so far to the right that no one with any decent sense of understanding civil rights or understanding human rights could go along with some of the supporters that she had. So I thought she had went a little bit too far in terms of that, but that was the politics of that day.
They got 3 distinctions award this year, have taken our dropout rate to 0 and our graduation rate to 100%. When you're able to do that kind of thing, create successful businesses, create housing for seniors and the disabled.
Yeah, and I've done all those things that she's mentioned as a city councilman. Matter of fact, bought $140 million for protection of the Edwards Aquifer. We just did $1 million improvement to the Good Samaritan Hospital, which was a historical black hospital, made it a veterans outreach in partnership with the Alamo Community College District. So I know how to talk a hard line, but talking a hard line produces those kinds of results. I took Willowwood, Meadowview out of the floodplain with a bond issue as a result of a filibuster. So you've got to look at it from, there's some days you need to negotiate and some days you need to speak up.
One of the issues that's been coming up on the east side, and in some ways it's a good problem to have,
Yes.
is gentrification.
Yes.
Now, and both of you are kind of interesting because, you know, one of the huge patterns we've seen over the last 4 decades is a lot of people moving out. And y'all both went out. I think you'd be closer to UTSA, but you're both back now.
Yes.
And you both obviously have big roots there. But the issue of gentrification, is there do you see any big problems with that? And if so, what can you do? Barbara says you've been negative on it. What's
There's
your
no
concern?
negativity here about that. There's a reality. I'm not in fantasy land like my opponent. Let me tell you, when you have a gentrification system that's set up, you're moving people out of their homeland, so to speak, and you're not providing a way for them to come back. That's the reality. That's not a negativity. And so we have to, I think, develop the policies that make it possible for people who would ordinarily be removed from a particular area to be able to come back to that area. That involves public policy and the details of public policy that need to take place. We haven't seen that on the east side. We've seen a big move to move people out, and that's the problem that needs to be addressed.
Okay, and so what sort of really quickly, what sort of policies are we talking about?
Well,
freezing their taxes, or that doesn't help them move back in?
Well, there's been any number of cities that have actually, when they've gone through this gentrification process, have actually made available loans so people could come back at a lower percentage perhaps, but also to rehab the area so that people could have decent housing. There's all kinds of policies that could be implemented by using city planners and so forth to make sure that those people are just not removed and completely forgot about.
So early voting begins in what, about 2 weeks?
May 16th through the 20th.
May 16th, 20th.
Election day on May 24th.
I knew you'd know those dates. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rick.
Yes.